And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bashing us, him.
July 2nd, 2024. We're live. New York's Finest Unfiltered Podcast. We have 265 Police Live series. This is a great episode. And check this article out here. Written by Yoav from the city. A cop who lied about the COVID vaccine gets to keep her job. The NYPD commissioner command rules on this. John, this is a quite interesting case here. Not only that, I think this ties into the quintessential case that highlights what we've been exposing when it comes to the disciplinary matrix that everyone has been sleeping on. I think they're finally waking up to it. So let's just jump right into it. Let's get your thoughts.
I mean, dude, there's so much here. I mean, this is a really interesting topic, dude, because I just think it highlights there's so much hypocrisy. You're right. One, around the disciplinary matrix, because like we've been saying, there's absolutely zero standard of discipline. There's zero standard of investigation. But when you look, I mean, I think, and then you get into the whole COVID thing, you get into the whole mandate where, basically everyone won their cases. The city's spending millions upon millions of dollars to appeal all these cases that would let all of the fired and forced out workers return to work with back pay and full reinstatement. And basically everybody's turning a blind eye to it. And I think this even just reignites that conversation even more. So, I mean, what do you think about it? Like just on the face of it, the cop lies. She submits 2 fake vaccine cards, right? And then she goes down to IAB and lies about that. What do you think about that?
So let's pretend that thousands of cops did not vest out, retire, or even get terminated, like the recent interview we had with Detective Marlon Bethel, 15 years on the job, as a result of the COVID vaccine mandate administered by Bill de Blasio, but further taken by Mayor Eric Adams himself. Now, what's interesting about this, let's forget about that. Let's just talk about this case alone. So even before the disciplinary matrix, now the disciplinary matrix met its inception in January 2021, but even prior to that, it's always been so substantial to have credibility as a cop. And that if you intentionally lie, even prior to the disciplinary matrix, you were subject to termination. But now it's even further. It's drawn out as a presumptive penalty. It's an automatic penalty. And there are aggravating factors. I think the aggravating factors, I'll just never talk to you again. But it's absolutely ridiculous. So the other component to that also, so there's 2 parts to this, right? So one is this police officer intentionally lied, which goes against her integrity, her oath, her credibility. And the second thing is she actually produced a fraudulent document, not only once, but twice. So this potentially, not only is this a problematic issue violating NYPD policy, but I do think this potentially could be a crime in itself because it's actually a fraudulent document. So that in itself could actually be a crime within the NYPD. So even just separating this from the actual COVID vaccine, just looking at the face of it, we have 2 problematic issues, and that alone, she should face termination.
Yeah, prior to the mandate being instituted, they made giving a fake vaccine card a felony in New York. They passed a law that it would be a felony. It would be providing a false official document. And even prior to that, it would still be providing a false official document to the NYPD. I mean, so again, I'm totally against that. I was totally against the mandate. And I had the opportunity to do that. And I was like, you know what? Why would I bend my integrity or do something illegal to basically to comply with something I don't agree with, right? And that basically, the people that did that allowed people like myself to retire and other people to be terminated, and they didn't push back, and they basically shirked their responsibility. If you don't want to take it, you shouldn't have took it, right? And everyone's like, "Oh, you're an idiot. You should have just did that. It's money." But it's bigger than that, It's bigger than that. It's lying, and I personally think COVID was the litmus test. That was the ultimate litmus test for you. right? Where's your line? Did you draw your line in the sand? If you drew your line in the sand and said, I'm not taking this, and then you took it or you lied, it's the same thing. I mean, you basically you said, oh, you know what? I'll just draw another line in the sand. You did an Obama. I'll draw one line in the sand. You violate that line. I'll draw another line in the sand, and then I'll draw another line in the sand. And basically, you shirk your responsibility. You respect your responsibility to your children and to upholding the Constitution of the United States and to the oath you swore as a police officer. So I think honestly, do I feel bad for the girl that she was put in that situation? I mean, I know what that stress was like. Yeah, I feel terrible for her. But when we're talking about integrity and we're talking about honesty, I think those are things that should be unwavering when we're talking about a police profession, a profession where you have more power than the president at times, right? You could take someone's life, you could take someone's freedom in a second. And if you're not a person of integrity, you shouldn't be able to carry that badge.
Well, we have to have comparisons and we have to have standards. And I agree. I feel sorry for her that she was put in this position, but I also feel sorry for the other thousands, including yourself, teachers, firemen, cops, sanitation workers, different agencies that had to administer this COVID vaccine. But she's a New York City police officer. So this says a lot about her character also. Not only was she put in this precarious position, but she actually went out and produced a fake fraudulent card, but not once, twice. And she actually lied several times during her Internal Affairs Bureau investigations, which to me says a lot about her character, that she was able to persevere through this, because she had numerous opportunities to say to herself, wait a minute, I'm lying and I'm producing a fraudulent document, while at the same time, simultaneously, my brothers and sisters are facing termination, they're vesting out, retiring, resigning, and right now, I've been under the radar because I produced a fraudulent document. So that's where I have a problem. It says a lot about who she is. Now, let's see if we just move aside from that. I'd like to talk about what you said. I want to reflect on shirking responsibilities. Let's talk about the responsibilities of the union itself, because the union is put in an interesting position here. How could the union not represent you and Marlon Bethel and all the other police officers that were put in this position, but yet represent her, give her a lawyer in regards to this case when she completely violated not COVID policy, but she violated her oath as a police officer? That I have a huge problem.
I mean, dude, that's an even bigger point. And it's rumored that she is the delegate in the 7-0, or was. I don't know if she still is, but it's rumored that that's true. And if that's true, it's another example of shirking your responsibility, not only as a police officer, but as a representative, right? Because you're not standing up for your people. You're supposed to, the union is supposed to be the front line, right? Your union representative is supposed to be the person that goes to the job to fight for your grievances, to protect your health and wellness, your benefits, and your pay. And obviously she didn't do that, right? So she should be removed if she hasn't been already as a union delegate. But you're right. The union goes to bat for people with low integrity and that lie and that commit crimes, but they don't go to bat for someone who held on to their religious beliefs or held on to their moral line and said, this isn't right. This mandate was never should have been, right? So as much as in her defense, I'm going to say, listen, the mandate was never legal and the mandate was not a good thing. So I'm not sitting here saying, oh, fire her and fire everybody. I'm not. But I'm saying that let's have a standard of what's going forward. And honestly, why should she just be the one that hangs for having the fake COVID vaccine card? I'm going to say right now that there's tons of fake vaccine cards throughout New York City, throughout all of New York City agencies. And now we have the standard of discipline, right? And Edward Caban, instead of firing her, he gave her 85 vacation days were taken away. So I think let's have an audit. Let's see how many executives that pushed this mandate. Let's see how many of them didn't put it in their body themselves, because I think that'll show even a bigger hypocrisy.
I love when you talk about hypocrisy, because we could go all day. Let's talk about the hypocrisy of the disciplinary matrix. So in obviously this case, she got what's called the mitigating factors, something that John and I have talked about extremely expressively about the discipline matrix. And a lot of the cops out there and just the public in itself are sleeping on what's the disciplinary matrix. The disciplinary matrix is a doctrine that the commissioner is supposed to follow. And if the commissioner deviates, he's supposed to put out a letter articulating why there's a deviation from the findings from the administrative trial, the administrative judge within the NYPD. So it's interesting. It's exactly what we've been saying. I said you can rename the mitigating factors as the circle of nepotism, because exactly the indications of why she had the mitigating factors could also, we could flip that around, and that could also be aggravating factors. Her time and rank, her time in the job, the fact that she's an active police officer, and the fact that she hasn't had much of a disciplinary record have been utilized as mitigating factors to keep her job. And those could actually be mirrored and actually be aggravating factors. So again, it goes back to the circle of nepotism. If you're in that circle, the disciplinary matrix could save your job. And if you're not, you could be someone else that is terminated because you're not in that circle. So I definitely like to reflect on how this is the quintessential case of the disciplinary matrix and exactly what we've been talking about, that those mitigating factors really are for those in that circle of nepotism. So she was a delegate herself. I do not know. I heard a rumor that she has a relationship with Ed Caban. I'm not saying a sexual relationship, but that they know each other, that there's some type of friendship. So that would correlate this circle of nepotism.
The disciplinary matrix is as arbitrary and capricious as the mandate itself was, right? Because like you just said, the fact that she was a delegate, the fact that she had time on the job, the fact that she was experienced, those are aggravating factors, but they were used as mitigating factors because of we don't know why. Let's go into this article a little bit, because I gotta be honest, I read the Daily News article. Daily News was the first to put this out, but but it was brief. It didn't really go into anything. This one's from the city, Yoav Gon. This is a really well written article, and I think goes highly into the points that we're raising here. So the determination was Caban's first deviation from the NYPD's so-called disciplinary matrix since he was named commissioner last July. The matrix determines that making false official statements should result in termination, absent extraordinary circumstances. His decision also ran counter to an administrative trial judge recommendation that Kimberly Lucas should lose her job. The disciplinary matrix provides presumed penalties for a range of conduct, and police commissioners have been required to provide written explanations for any deviations from the penalty range since the NYPD adopted the matrix in January 21. There were 14 such deviations from the matrix before Caban, all of them lesser penalties than the prescribed, but 6 of them were in agreement with the watchdog CCRB's recommendation. The strict repercussion for false statements in the matrix was largely a product of decades of pressure from a police oversight board, the Commission to Combat Police Corruption, which has been pushing the department to terminate police officers when they intentionally make false material statements. What do you think about that?
So it's quite interesting, right? We spoke about this. Keith Chansul, prior to Commissioner Ed Caban, had testified to New York City Council about exactly what we're talking about, how many times that they deviated from the disciplinary matrix. And here, that's why this is a great job by Yoav. Absolutely, this is much better written than it was in the Daily News. But this lays out the comparison and hypocrisy. It shows that there's absolutely no standard. And only 14 cases, and this is now the 15th case. So since 2021, in January, it will be 4 years. We're almost 4 years into this disciplinary matrix, and we've only had 15 cases now, including this one, that have been deviated because it's supposed to be extraordinary. What is extraordinary about this case? The fact that she was forced to take a vaccine? Well, what about everybody else? And that's why I said, listen, I feel sorry she was put in that position. But at the same time, I don't feel sorry that she lied and produced a fake card twice, because that does say a lot about her character, and it shows that she should receive the aggravating factors. I don't see mitigating factors here. I see complete nepotism. This is absolutely ridiculous that he deviated in this case, because also in this article, I'd like you to go into it, there's a great comparison of another police officer that was disciplined, and the disciplinary matrix with the aggravating factors was weighed heavily when you look at the character and also the nomenclature of this person's career and what they have done in service. That's someone who should have received the mitigating factors, especially in a case that's not as egregious as this one.
Yeah, I mean, and let's not glance over the fact that the crime was a felony and it wasn't investigated, nor was she arrested for it, where other people were. Some people were arrested for submitting false official documents for a felony. So let's not gloss over that either. But yeah, let's get into that part of the article. And I'll give you a backstory with it. I don't know how many people are going to be familiar with this, but Caban had been less accommodating in a decision he made earlier in the year in an unrelated case where an officer with a stellar work history, including serving in the U.S. Marines in Afghanistan, faced termination for failing to appear for an IAB interview where he was subject of an investigation. The administrative trial judge in that case also argued for leniency based on the officer's rave reviews from colleagues and the fact that the officer's attorney had advised him not to attend the interview. But in that case, Caban insisted on termination, noting on how seriously he takes IAB investigative process. The department is a paramilitary organization, and failure to obey and comply with questioning under official investigation undermines its ability to carry out its mission, Caban wrote on January 29th. The NYPD's press office did not respond to questions about Caban's ruling in the two cases. Now, just a backstory on this. So they're talking about Officer Anwar, and I don't remember his full name, but I believe it's Anwar. And forgive me if you're listening to this. I'm just not good at pronunciation, but he's a Chinese officer, and he was accused of acting as a business agent for China. He was actually arrested by the United States government. He was put in prison for, I believe, 3 months. He was in federal jail, and 3 months into the case, they just dismissed all charges against him. So he has no criminal charges against him. He was arrested. Immediately upon being released, he was requested to go down to IAB, and they had set him up for a 3-day GO15. I don't know. I was in the NYPD for 18 years. I served in Internal Affairs Bureau. I've never even heard of that. 3 days they notified him for. You have to come for these 3 days for that. So his attorney, seeing that this was a criminal case, this is something that could still be criminal. He served 3 months in jail for it. He wanted the discovery. He wanted the discovery from the NYPD News. I was told that police officers accused of anything, whether it's administrative or a crime, that we were still citizens and we had the right to due process. The NYPD apparently does not agree with that. So the attorney had called IAB and requested an adjournment of this GO15 until they would provide whatever evidence they had against his client. Right? He was unhappy with the PBA representation. He'd seek to get his own attorney, which honestly at this point I would too. The guy spent time in jail. He was accused of something that was ridiculous, and the way I read it in the paper was that he was acting as a Chinese spy. But in reality, what he was arrested for was acting as a business agent, like an unregistered, like basically to do business with China, which is the same thing that Winnie Greco, the mayor's aide, is being accused of now. You or any foreign government, you just need to register. So they're like saying, well, he didn't have the proper business license to do that. He wasn't actually, he was never actually accused of being a spy, but I get it's national security and all that. So when his lawyer requested, IAB denies to hand over the evidence that they have, and they deny to push the interview back. And his lawyer advises him do not go down to the GO15. And the lawyer advises IAB that he will not be going down to the GO15 until they provide the evidence and allow them time to discuss the evidence and see what they have against them. And IAB terminates him. And that's the decision that Caban made. He never lied in front of IAB. He didn't lie. He just asked for due process, and he wasn't provided to him. And with that, Caban had the utmost. He had zero tolerance. But for lying twice, submitting false documents, and then going to IAB and fabricating a story, he had leniency for, which is, I mean, the hypocrisy is unreal.
The hypocrisy is absolutely ridiculous. First of all, in this case, I think it's absolutely ridiculous, again, how the NYPD violates their own policies and does not serve due process, because according to NYPD Patrol Guide, the policy of the police department is that if you're involved in a criminal investigation, that you have the right to hold off until the internal affairs investigation, where it's actually going to be a recorded proceeding, until the investigation, the criminal investigation, is completed for that purpose, so that you have due process and then you don't self-incriminate yourself and it's not supposed to be held against you in the criminal proceedings. But again, the NYPD violates their own policies because it's egos over everything. Obviously, somehow this targeted, and this was an ego-driven decision by Ed Caban in this case. So I don't know the complete context what had led to the ego, but obviously we could tell based on the information that we know. Based on that information, I heard the same thing, that the context of it, that it was the ego involved. Now, I'd like to shift gears and go even further. So last night during an X Space, we discussed some stuff about this. And Cops for Freedom brought up a great point, and we went even further on it. But this also now affects her credibility. And so they're seeing this as very short-sighted. So as the police commissioner, he's not seeing the long game. And that's why we're saying we need an overhaul. We need an overhaul in leadership in the NYPD, which affects public safety. Because now we have to say to ourselves, credibility is the most important thing. So we were talking about what happens now if she testifies in any trials, in any cases. So I said, let's even go further, because when you go to court, what is presented part of bail reform in discovery is Giglio material. And the cops right now know what Giglio material is: a cop's record, which includes your disciplinary record. So obviously, this police officer is not going to be considered credible in any trial. And this could affect any past trials, because the defense attorneys in other cases where people are in prison right now, they could say, well, you know what, this police officer does not have credibility, and this could be the right to an appeal and a new trial for other cases. So this could affect public safety. We have someone that has violated their own oath and is still a New York City police officer, full duty with a firearm, that's going to go out and do law enforcement, which could include making further arrests, which could affect further trials. We're talking about potential murderers, rapists, whatever the case is. So that's a huge problem. Credibility, Giglio. This affects all the police officers right now.
It's honestly, it's unreal, and it's infuriating. And I think what's more infuriating is the absolute cucks in the NYPD that are saying, good for her, leave it alone, let's move on. And my thing is, I don't think we can move on until it's made right, until everybody's made whole. I want to move on from COVID. I want to move on from COVID. I want to see people like Maul and Bethel. I want to see the teachers that lost their jobs. I want to see people that were terminated. I want to see them get restored with their back pay and time. And again, I've made the claim before, and I'm going to make it again. New York City is spending more money fighting the appeals in 1 month. So 1/12 of that money that they've been spending for the last 3 years. So for 36 months, only 1 month they could take and restore every single person that left over the mandate, whether they resigned, whether they vested, whether they retired, whether they were fired. They could restore everybody with their time, with back pay, and a small settlement to make them feel better and make it right. And New York City Mayor Eric Adams is unwilling to do that. For what reason? I don't know. He'd rather waste millions and millions of dollars in taxpayer funds to continue to fight this. So in February 2022, the Adams administration terminated nearly 1,800 cops, firefighter, teachers, and other city workers who failed to abide by the mandate, right? But that doesn't include, there's probably another 4,000 people that left. So 5,600 people, the numbers to reinstate them, it's going to be probably 30, 40 million. And I'm saying right now, that's what they're spending a month to litigate these cases. But here we go. A number of those seeking reinstatement also have objected to so the administration said it would create paths for terminated workers to be reinstated. But last week, a spokesperson for DCAS told the city that just 72 workers terminated over the mandate have been reinstated. A number of those seeking reinstatement have also objected to a waiver they say the city requires for reemployment, which gives up the right to sue over issues like back pay and other civil servants. Asked about the waiver, the Spurk Post and Dan Castanis said that only it gives agencies the discretion to reinstate employees. Javier Vasquez, a former FDNY firefighter, said he was terminated in 2022 after not securing a religious accommodation from the Band-Aid. He won reinstatement in Brooklyn Supreme Court in January, but the Adams administration appealed, putting him back to work. My family has struggled to eat, to keep utilities on, he testified. We had to sell our house. Alfonso Ventura, a former school lunch helper for the Department of Education in Manhattan, said his termination in October of 21 took him from being hailed as an essential worker hero to being homeless and living in a shelter for 3 years. Without the job, without money, and without unemployment insurance, I was a hero and homeless, he testified. Marlon Bethel, who we recently had on here, and he's going to come back on, a former detective with 15 years at the NYPD, including in its intelligence bureau, said he was among hundreds of terminations in February 2022. And let me remind you, that was right after Wilbert Mora and Rivera were assassinated. Right? It was right after the funeral when Eric Adams was touching the casket like he cared and said he honored their service and talked about their faith, which is a biggest slap in the face. A year later, he was given just 3 weeks to sign a waiver, giving up his certain vital rights, even as the city failed to answer a host of questions he had about it. In a phone call, Bethel, 43, noted that he's not anti-vaccine. He preferred to wait for a COVID vaccine that was approved by the FDA through a regular timeline rather than an emergency one that undergoes less vigorous testing. He spoke last week in city council, and this was his statement. Had I simply chosen fraud and dishonesty and used a fake vax card, I would have been reprimanded and still allowed to keep my job, he testified. So why is it that having chosen honesty and actual science, I'm no longer allowed to be there?
You know what's interesting about this? I would like to know what exactly are these mitigating factors? How do we outline these mitigating factors? So I like to make a comparison, right? Mitigating factors are exactly that. Some contributing factor that led to an infraction, but it's understood that you were put in a position that, well, this may happen and something went too far, right? So let me give an analogy here. Let's say, for instance, you're a police officer, you're involved in an arrest situation with a volatile perpetrator who's actively resisting. And you're in a position now, you're trying to make this arrest. Maybe this person's wanted for murder. They have a history of fighting with police officers. And in that struggle, at some point, you get that adversary under control, and then you deploy some excessive punches or unnecessary punches. Now, we could say that is an infraction that violates policy. You've used too much force, but there's a mitigating factor. There was fear involved. This was a very volatile situation. The history of this perpetrator. To me, in a situation like that, we can weigh mitigating factors. Now, is it right to use unnecessary force? No, but it's understood, and we could weigh those mitigating factors. But what are the mitigating factors here? That's the part I'm not understanding, because this police officer, do we know, did she submit for a religious accommodation? Did she submit for a medical exemption? Why did she put herself in a position to get fake vaccine cards? But it says a lot about her character, and it says a lot about the character of other police officers that went that same route also. And exactly that, committing fraud and knowingly lied several times under oath as a police officer, while, and this is the part that I have a problem, because she was now provided leniency, but she knowingly knew that her brothers and sisters were getting terminated. They were resigning. They were vesting out at the same time when she was walking around with a fake card. So this was sitting on her conscience. And at no point did she come out and say, you know what, this is absolutely ridiculous. I can't do this. Look at my brothers and sisters leaving. But no, she didn't have a moral compass. Her conscience was for herself. It shows a lot about her character. I'm disgusted that this is the police officer that received the mitigating factors, and going further, she can no longer arrest any perpetrators because she has zero credibility, and her Giglio is going to reflect that.
100%. And it's a reflection of this administration. It's a reflection of Ed Caban's integrity. It's a reflection of New York City Mayor Eric Adams' integrity. She's a complete liar, complete, utter liar. You know, and we're sitting here, we're talking about the disciplinary matrix, and we're going through all of it. And the biggest hypocrisy of it is she who lied, submitted fake false official documents, didn't put an exemption in, didn't fight for anyone, even though she was a delegate, didn't do any of that. She had 3 years of due process. 3 years of due process. So I'm going to say right now, the NYPD, fuck your disciplinary matrix, and Ed Caban, fuck you too. Because here's the shit that really bothers me. This is the thing that gets me irked. Is we're talking about what's mitigating factors. She has zero mitigating factors. Everything you just said right there is an aggravating factor. But she received due process. People who were terminated and forced out of their careers were given 7 days. They were never given a trial. They never was given an interview. They were given a piece of paper. If you don't do this, you're going to be terminated. And they terminated people without even weighing in their careers, without talking about their service to the community, their service to the NYPD, without talking about their integrity. Because again, like I said, that was the ultimate litmus test. Marlon Bethel's the guy, when he walks into a precinct, and they're all selling drugs, or they're robbing perps, or they're beating the shit out of people and robbing them, guess what? He's going to be the guy that stands up and does something about it and doesn't partake in that. You know what she's going to be? She's going to be the person that either goes along with it. I'm going to say she goes along with it based on what I see from this instance, or she just keeps her mouth shut and says nothing. Integrity matters. It matters the utmost in policing. So the disciplinary matrix, they just threw the whole thing out of the window. Ed Caban made himself look like a moron. He disgraced the whole entire NYPD, and he just showed how stupid he is and how arbitrary and capricious the entire disciplinary process in the NYPD is. It doesn't exist. Marlon Bethel, who holds on to his truth, holds on to integrity, people that held on to their religious beliefs, got zero due process. But if they would have submitted a fake vaccine card, they'd be getting paid for the last 3 years with health benefits. Oh, and guess what? They get to keep their job. So for all of you that are saying good for her, shows what type of integrity you have. You shouldn't be a police officer either.
Yeah, I have the same response. Absolutely. For those out there that are saying, good for her. What do you mean good for her? Well, good for you. How do you think that this is okay? Because now we opened up Pandora's box. I agree. This is absolutely ridiculous. This is the most insignificant police commission we've ever seen. How can we have a Marine who served his country not get any mitigating factors when he's going through a process, a criminal investigation, which was alleged he was never committed of a crime, and that crime was dismissed. He was never afforded the opportunity to have due process and testify to internal affairs when that case was over, just as he's allowed to, so he does not incriminate himself. But now we opened up Pandora's box, because now if a police officer in a position, if they lied, they should get mitigating factors in any case. Well, you know what? I wasn't on my post. And you lie about why you're on your post. You shouldn't receive any discipline. It's okay to lie. We just opened up Pandora's box. You lied because you were scared. You lied because you didn't want to get in trouble, right? That's why she lied. She lied because she didn't want to take the vaccine. I get it. She didn't want to take it. John didn't want to take it. Marlon Bethel didn't want to take it. But she lied about it. And not only did she lie, she went even further and produced, she had fake vaccine cards. She was walking around there for a period of time, knowing on her conscience that she has these fake cards. And then she produced them as legitimate cards twice. Not only once, twice. She had numerous opportunities to stand back and say, wait a minute. I'm a New York City police officer. I took an oath. You know what? That's bullshit. Bullshit. She lied, and now she opened up Pandora's box. Anybody going forward, if you lie, I believe you should get the mitigating factors, and you should keep your job. No longer should the truth be important for a New York City police officer, because it's sure not important for the upper echelon of the New York City Police Department, which is why we need an overhaul. If John and I become police commissioner or some type of commissioners one day, and that may happen soon, you never know. You never know. It's possible. I can tell you what, there would be a complete overhaul of the New York City Police Department, and we would bring back integrity, because integrity is important. It's important so that adversaries, perpetrators, persons of interest, people that go out to shoot, rob, and rape citizens of New York City actually go to jail. But right now, if I was a defense attorney, I would look at this police officer. I would go back into these cases and say, oh, one of my clients is still in jail for robbery, and this police officer made the arrest. Let's look into her testimony. You know what? We can't hold her testimony as credible because she lied about this vaccine. But she was pardoned by Police Commissioner Ed Caban, who clearly just destroyed this disciplinary matrix. So, in one way, I want to thank you, because I've been saying this disciplinary matrix is absolutely a ridiculous doctrine. It's not utilized properly. And I want to thank Ed Caban for providing the quintessential case that shows that the disciplinary matrix is a failed doctrine. It's failed to the police officers. It's failed because it's not used properly. If it was used properly, it might be a different discussion. Because we have a weak, immature upper echelon, the New York City Police Department, who completely operates an egregious circle of nepotism. That's what we see here. This is exactly what we've been talking about. This disciplinary matrix protects those in that circle of nepotism, and you're seeing that someone that should not be a police officer is on the job. And that's how the New York City Police Department has unhinged police officers like the one that hid behind the fake moniker, All Cops Are Woke, is out walking the streets, not being arrested, not being identified because Internal Affairs is not doing their job. But Internal Affairs does their job when there's a Marine who didn't get due process. This is absolutely ridiculous. Failed leadership, failed management, failed NYPD.
100%, dude. And full disclosure here, Yoav actually called for me for a quote when he was writing this article. And my quote was, I'm shocked she didn't get promoted to deputy commissioner because she has about as much integrity as the rest of the upper echelon of the NYPD, who almost the entirety of them have been accused of or pleaded guilty to lying or submitting false official documents or cheating on a test. And that's including Ed Caban, right? They've all been accused of it. Their integrity is gone. And this shows how much they care about the truth and honesty. This shows it. I spoke to Sal Greco yesterday too, and I told him, I said, this relates to your case a lot. And the reason it relates to the Sal Greco case is because they used the disciplinary matrix to terminate Sal Greco for lying to IAB. Let's go back real quick on Sal Greco. Sal Greco was charged with doing uncompensated security for Roger Stone. Why was it uncompensated? Because even though the NYPD lied and said that he was involved in drug activity to get access to his bank records and his phone records and all that other thing, they never found one financial transaction between anyone except from the New York City Police Department to show his thing. So they charged him with doing uncompensated security because they had no financial transaction. So the fact that he said that he didn't do security for Roger Stone, they charged him with lying to IAB and terminated him for that. Why wasn't Sal Greco given the mitigating factors? Why was he terminated? That's another case of lying in front of IAB, and he gets terminated. So this, I think, is just yet another example of arbitrary and capricious. Like you said, if you're in the circle of nepotism, you're there. And I'm gonna say it again. Kaz Daughtry, the same thing. Kaz Daughtry lied twice. He lied to investigators, right? And he lied on the stand. 2 separate incidents. He lied two times, and now he's an assistant commissioner. So I'm sorry, he's a deputy commissioner. He moved through the ranks, never took a test, complete lack of integrity, right? He lies to the public daily, and he's moving up the ranks. So I'm going to stick to my quote. You know, I know you didn't publish it, Yoav. It's not a friendly quote, but it's the truth. She should be promoted based on what we see from this administration. She should be promoted to deputy commissioner because this is somebody that Eric Adams could rely on to sit there and tell you crime's down.
Exactly. Another useful idiot. Well, not only did she lie once, she lied twice, just as Deputy Commissioner Kaz Daughtry did. So that's that's the requirement right now that we see. This is the new standard by the police department, the upper echelon New York City Police Department. You need to lie twice to actually move on with this police department or be part of this circle of nepotism. This is absolutely ridiculous. I'm embarrassed by this police department. And first of all, again, I received numerous messages on this. So did you. We had numerous conversations about this. To any cop out there that thinks this is cool, or you know what, Ed Caban's a nice guy. Really? We've been saying this for a long time. Think about that. Nice guy. Is nice guy what we need? I'm not saying he's not a nice guy. I don't know him personally, but I hear he's a nice guy. I'm sure he's a fun guy to go out and party with. But does that make him a good guy? He's in a position of leadership that's supposed to protect the NYPD and ultimately protect the people of the city. How does this protect the people of the city if now we've allowed a police officer that has violated her oath, intentionally lying, bypassed the entire system of the police department, which now affects public safety? How can he be a good guy? How can he be in a position of leadership? Let's be honest. Every cop knows it in the NYPD. And any of our viewers that are out there, just want to show you how substantial this is. Every time a police officer sits down, what's called the GO15, General of 15, you sit down with a tape recorder and you testify internal affairs, maybe the Civilian Complaint Review Board, but you testify and articulate why you did your job, why you did certain things, how you've carried out policy, or maybe how you violated policy, and you're supposed to tell the truth. And you even have an opportunity where they read your rights of the policies of the police department, and also you have an opportunity that you're supposed to be knowledgeable of this, where you could just waive the rights, and they don't read it. But what is told every time is that if you intentionally lie, you will be terminated. That is specifically read to every police officer before they testify. If you intentionally lie, you will be terminated. So she lied to herself. She lied to every police officer. She lied to the commissioner. She lied to the police department. She lied to the city of New York. She lied to her brothers and sisters that were out there doing the job. And if she didn't, that means that everybody knew she had a vaccine card, and everyone violated the policies of the New York City Police Department, because every one of them was supposed to notify Internal Affairs. So where you have a huge problem right now in the entire police department is corrupted by allowing this police officer to keep her job, and yet John McCary had to leave on moral principle. Marlon Bethel was terminated. Other police officers vested out. I know numerous police officers in conversation today that now live in Florida, in different parts of the country, and they left because of the COVID vaccine. And this girl is now continuing to thrive within the police department. What will be her position now in the police department? Because she can no longer make arrests. Ed Caban, I'm sure you watch this, Kaz Daughtry, John Shell. What position will she be in? Maybe she should move up to the tan pants. Put her in khaki pants. Put her on the dream team. I'm sure she'll thrive there.
Rudy Giuliani said the default position for New York City is corruption. Corruption in New York City has to be actively weeded out. If corruption in New York City is not actively weeded out, it will thrive. What we're seeing under the Eric Adams administration is it's being welcomed. It's being completely welcomed. So I'm calling for it. I don't care who doesn't like it. When you see me, see me. You know, I don't care who doesn't like it. I'm calling for an audit of all the vaccine cards. Every vaccine card that was submitted. I want to know which one's real. Integrity matters. And there's two places that need to be started. NYPD executives should be the first one. I don't care if they were promoted before or after. Everyone in the upper echelon of the NYPD needs their vaccine cards checked immediately. That needs to happen. The second one is the unions. The union heads all need those vaccine cards checked. We need integrity in the NYPD. Was she removed from the PBA? Is she still a PBA delegate? Because if that's the case, that means that your money, your PBA dollars are going to support corruption. They're going to support people that aren't going to stand up for you, that are going to lie, that are going to tell you, don't worry, just take it, and then go do their own damn thing, right? And not stand up for you at all, not stand in the way, not speak up for you. It's all about protecting their own skin. So to me, this is a highlight in everything that's wrong with the New York City Police Department. And when I see things like this, I can't blame the lefties when they go nuts and they say, you can't trust this police department. You can't trust what they say. They're liars. Look what they do. They have no integrity. This is just more ammo for them. And this is more reasoning for more insane legislation that will further emasculate the NYPD and lessen public safety in New York City. This decision by Ed Caban lessened public safety in New York City. It lessened the NYPD in the eyes of the public. And honestly, it's just a huge highlight in the failure of Eric Adams to appoint people with integrity. He actually looks for people with low integrity. So again, I'm calling for this girl. She should be promoted because she looks like everybody else on the upper echelon. And I'm not talking about the color of her skin. I'm talking about her disciplinary record and her lack of integrity.
Oh, absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned that, right? I want to piggyback on them, just like John said, right? Because I've been in conversation with numerous people, and they're saying because it's a black female. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The color of her skin, her identity, her gender has zero to do with this case at all. Even going back further, we did an episode about Kaz Daughtry when this whole attack started on this podcast from the Dream Team. It was about nepotism. It was about nepotism then, and it's about nepotism now. Nepotism is the biggest problem, is the most problematic issue that is affecting the New York City Police Department, and the nepotism of this police department is actually affecting public safety. Let's go even further. I can say this. This might sound egregious, but I think going further, no police officer should be subjected to telling the truth in any case. How could anyone going further be informed that if they intentionally lie, that they could be fired. Because this police officer, she intentionally lied, and she was allowed to keep her job. She was disciplined, but she kept her job, completely violated her oath. So going further, I would like to say, no longer should police officers take an oath, and no longer should police officers be advised, and should there be a policy that police officers have to tell the truth. Because if this police officer kept her job, how can we go further? How could, at any point, as Police Commissioner Ed Caban is in this position of the de facto, the last decision, the pen on paper for discipline, how could going further in any case could Ed Caban say, you know what, this person is going to be terminated because they lied? This is the case to compare. Again, this is the quintessential case that highlights the disciplinary matrix. This is my message to the cops again. If you haven't read the disciplinary matrix, you haven't been listening, you haven't been paying attention, you need to read it today. You need to read it until you're blue in the face and understand this is the doctrine that could hurt you. And if you're lucky enough to be part of the circle of nepotism, this is the document that's going to save you. Just as it did, it saved this police officer.
Like you said, everybody's applauding the guy. Like, oh, look, he looked out for this girl's career, but it's inconsistent. It's not like he's always he's terminated. He's terminated so many people. It's not even funny for and had zero discretion when it comes to it. Zero care for anybody. So I mean, I just think it's a highlight in this administration. There's zero integrity. Lying gets you ahead. Lie, cheat, and steal. And integrity is really lost. Especially, you know, and we talk about it a lot with the Internal Affairs Bureau too. I mean, the allegations we made are serious allegations. They're all legitimate. And IAB is doing everything they can to disprove them. Not to find the truth. They're actively seeking to disprove the allegations we made and lessen them and omit allegations we made and omit subjects and omit things. So again, this investigation's still going on. We still, even though they have the identity of All Cops Are Woke, they will not release it to us. They want us to go to our local police departments and file criminal reports, and then they'll tell those police departments. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolute slap in the face to integrity, to truth, to honesty, to New York City Police Department. And that's it. So when Kaz Daughtry said this is Ed Caban's police department, it's not. It's Eric Adams' police department, and it is the worst version of the New York City Police Department that I've ever seen in my lifetime. And that says a lot because I've seen a lot of corrupt cops growing up. And I think overall the police department was in much better shape than it is now because at least the upper echelon wasn't filled with a bunch of corrupt, lying lackeys.
I like to add this to the police officers out there watching this. If you are this person or you know someone, the terminology was, John, you know this, terminology was shake box. If you're a shake box, means you would get nervous every time you have to speak to the district attorney about your case and make sure that you have every I dotted and every T crossed. No need to worry about it no more. Don't worry about when you saw that hand-to-hand. Was it in the right hand? Was the money in the left hand? When you saw someone running from you with a firearm, did they put it in a garbage can? Did it go on the floor? Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter anymore. If you lie, it's okay. You're going to get the mitigating factors. Don't worry about it. I mean, think about this. Let's think about this. John, you know what I'm talking about. You've worked with those cops. I worked with cops. They were terrified. Oh my God, I can't remember. Was the gun in his right hand? Was the gun in his left hand? Were the drugs on the floor? And they would panic. I mean, I had cops work for me that unfortunately were fantastic. I had one of my police officers that they put him on the list for not being credible because he couldn't remember when we got a firearm arrest. He couldn't remember if the marijuana at the time, which was illegal, that led to the arrest. He couldn't remember if it was in the middle console or if it was in the guy's pocket. It was absolutely ridiculous, and yet they put him on a list for not being credible. But this girl intentionally lied. Let's think about that. If you're a police officer, you're involved in an arrest, and you can't remember, I don't know, it was a right hand, left hand, you're worried about if that's a lie or not. This girl had a fake card in her pocket that she fraudulently obtained, and she lied, intentionally lied. That's the difference. When people say, well, you know, sometimes, police officers lie. Those are mistakes. Well, which hand it was in, right hand, left hand. This is an intentional lie. She lacks character. She fits in with this administration. You know what, John? Let's support her. Let's advocate that this police officer is working with Deputy Commissioner Kaz Daughtry and Tariq Shepard in the future, and I hope that she does get promoted. I think she fits the bill. I hope that she becomes the next police commissioner, and she can make the decisions on mitigating factors, and everybody can lie. God willing, I hope she gets promoted.
Quick story, because we got to wrap this up. I'm a young anti-crime cop. There's 3 of us. Smell marijuana, pull a car over, center console. There's a huge bag of Oxycontins sitting right there, right in plain view. The guy, I was behind the driver's side. There was a cop in front of me at the driver's side window. The cop that was up that night that was going to take the collars, he's in the passenger side window. We get the mails out. We get all the mails out of the car. Another car shows up. They have all the mails under control. We have them in handcuffs. The driver, the cop that approached the driver's side says to the guy that's on the passenger side, he said, "Look, the pills are right there." And the kid goes, "All right, so I'm going to put you down that you found it." He goes, "No, I'm showing you. You're taking the collar. It's right there. The pills are right there. I didn't touch them. They're right there." He goes, no, I got to put you down. So he goes, "Okay, I'm just going to take the collar." So he takes the pills, takes the collar, right? And then he's like, "Yeah, I'm not going down to court." But that's how scared people are of lying. "Oh, I wasn't the first person that's seen it." No, but you saw it. You're recovering it. You're the one recovering it. You're taking it, right? That's how much integrity cops at one point have. And this is how far we stoop to where, no big deal. Just you could lie, cheat, and steal and do whatever you want. Don't worry about it. Complete insanity.
That was my point to that case, is that cops, exactly that. During the time that we were in, it was the best time. It was the best version of the police department. And cops were even worried about it. I remember cops losing sleep over it. I would laugh like, "Oh my God, I can't remember, was it the left hand or the right hand?" And that is just a mistake of the mind. That's doing police work. That's not a lie. But what's going on here is an outright lie. But going forward, you should be allowed to lie. You should be allowed to cheat. You should be allowed to steal. You should be allowed to make fake documents. No one should be getting in trouble for making fake plaques. No one should get in trouble for having those plates on your car so you don't get tickets, and which is going to come up soon for congestion pricing or going through tolls. No one should get any summonses or get reprimanded for having tint on their windows. If anything, there shouldn't be any rules anymore. This girl lied, okay? That's automatic termination, and she produced a fake fraudulent card. And think about the police officers that are facing discipline right now. If you're one of these police officers that's facing discipline because you were sitting in a car and it was extremely hot and you're sweating and you're getting written up, just think about this police officer. Yeah, some could say, "Wow, 85 days. She lost 85 days, but she kept her job. She committed a crime and she lied and she kept her job." So going forward, what could she do that outweighs that? No law. She doesn't even have to show up on time to work. I don't think she should do anything. You know what? To this police officer, she proved that this police department is just so ineffective. It's absolutely ridiculous. She should no longer show up on time or do anything right. Why would she have to? Make the comparison to this incident, and she kept her job. What do you think about that, John?
I just think, all the people that are sitting there saying, "Oh, you guys want someone to get fired." No, I don't want anybody to get fired. I'm saying based upon the standard that's been set forward, she should be fired, right? Based upon the standard that's set forward, every cop that submitted a fake vaccine card should be fired, right? But Ed Caban changed that standard. He's saying 85 vacation days. So the standard is, if you tell the truth, you get terminated, you lose your career, you lose millions of dollars, you lose all types of benefits because you have to retire early, or some people were even forced to resign because they didn't even reach the vested years yet. So I'm saying, when you hold on to truth, you get terminated, you're gone. When you lie, you're a good employee. You're going to have a nice, successful 20-year career. You're going to get a 20-year career. They're going to give you a plaque with the cop holding the kid. They're going to have a nice ceremony for you. You're going to be invited to your 20th anniversary. By the way, Lou, I still haven't got any of my LBA cards, or not. I don't get any emails, even though I'm a lifetime member. I'm gonna come stop by the office, see you guys. I'm curious why that is. And I haven't. Eric, were you invited to a retirement ceremony? I haven't got my invitation, but
No,
everyone in my class is. That's weird.
It's quite interesting. I was never invited to the retirement ceremony, not at all. I don't know why. You know what? But there's also police officers right now in the NYPD that are afraid to admit that they know me. So apparently, maybe we're not allowed to go to One Police Plaza anymore.
Oh, is it a certain inspector that works for John Shell and appears to be Kaz Daughtry's new driver? That guy? I don't know. I don't know.
He only knows me from his gym blog, apparently.
Yeah. Nah, guys are nut. Yeah, whatever.
Exactly.
We don't even need to say their name because they're irrelevant anyway. No. When history comes, they'll just be known as someone's driver. Some guy with low integrity's driver. That's it. So
look what happens when you give your opinions. But that's exactly what we're talking about. Look at the hypocrisy. The police department is in total shambles right now. If you think the police department is flourishing, anyone out there right now said this is a great administration, because we hear it all the time on social media. This is a great administration, takes care of cops. If you think they take care of cops, it's absolutely ridiculous. I don't want people to be terminated. No. But I also want to save those police officers that did not deserve to be put in a position where they had to vest, resign, or even get terminated like Marlon Bethel. Why save this one police officer? What about these other thousands of police officers that lost their lives, lost their jobs, and had to go home to their families and say, I could not keep my job because I stood on moral principle. I'm sure there's some wife right now who's telling her husband, you're an idiot. Why don't you just make a fake card like she did? You'd still have your job. Or some man out there telling his wife, why didn't you just be a woman like she was and just make a fake card? You're an idiot. Why'd you do the right thing? It's hard to tell your kids, hey, you know what? How do you think about that, John? How do you look at your kids and say, you know what? Go out there and do the right thing? Because you know what they're going to say? Why would I do the right thing? Police officers don't do the right thing. Think about it, Ed Caban. This is the Pandora box that you opened.
That's absolute, dude. It's we could go on for days and years about this. I mean, it's complete utter hypocrisy. NYPD's in shambles. We're gonna do an episode. We got an episode upcoming about they actually just formulated a technique to combat the diaphragm law. They had Hannah Gracie come out and they had all these things. That was a suggestion to Eric Dims. Have UFC fighters come out and train the NYPD. And we're going to do an entire episode about that. Of course, we get no credit for our free consultation. But that's okay because we're going to take it anyway. We're going to do a whole episode about it, and we're going to expose the gaslighting in that as well. People aren't going to like it. Henna, you're not going to like it. But I don't care. It's the truth. We're going to keep doing it. Eric, anything before you go?
No, we wrapped it up here. Unfortunately, it's in that police department. We've lost integrity. We've lost the oath. It really is. Again, it's embarrassing, shameful. We don't say this because we hate the NYPD. We say it because we love the version of the NYPD we once knew. We need to bring it back. This face I see on this podcast right now, that face needs to be removed, along with the other token pale faces that have no integrity. Where are the other chiefs? John Shell, Michael Kemper, they've been on this job for so many years to stand up and say, how could you do this, Edgar, man? You just disgraced every other police officer that makes it a point to tell the truth on a daily basis. Goodbye, NYPD. This is no longer the NYPD we once knew.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very sad. Very, very sad state of affairs. And again, I'm going to say it again. I don't believe that Ed Caban, that Keechant Sewell, that Kaz Daughtry, that Jeffrey Madry, I don't believe that any of these people, or Tanya Kinsella, I don't believe that any of them are vaccinated. I don't believe that any of their circle of nepotism is vaccinated at all. Oh, why does that matter? It matters because they forced people to do it and they fired people because of it, and people lost their careers. It matters. Until we're all made whole, we're not gonna back down on it. We're gonna keep pushing. It's not just this podcast. You got Bravers for Choice out there. You got Teachers for Choice. You got Cops for Freedom. You got thousands and thousands of people doing the advocating for this. So until that, we can't move on. And until that time, we're gonna keep exposing the corruption. So everybody, thank you for tuning in. New York's Finest Retired Unfiltered podcast. We'll be back at you.
Law enforcement professionals dedicate their lives to serving and protecting our community. But who's protecting their financial futures? That's where Laidlaw Blue comes in. Our wealth management platform is specifically designed for the law enforcement community. Laidlaw Blue is a division within Laidlaw Wealth Management, run by retired New York City detective John McDermott. His status as a retired detective uniquely positions him to establish a deep connection between Laidlaw Blue and the law enforcement community. Our platform is easy to use and provides a range of financial services, including investment management, retirement planning, and insurance solutions. With Laidlaw Blue, you can secure your financial future and provide for your loved ones. Our team of experienced financial advisors understands the unique challenges and opportunities that law enforcement professionals face. We're here to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning and achieve your goals. Laidlaw Blue. Secure your financial future today. Book a meeting using the QR code displayed or call us directly on 888-901 Blue. That's 888-901 Blue.